Thank you for tuning in to the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Please subscribe to our weekly Boston Bruins hockey talk on listening platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, and Spotify Podcasts. We'd certainly appreciate it if you give our show a 5-star rating along with a written review. You can also subscribe to our official YouTube channel for a video version of our weekly program. If you'd like to support our show financially, please go to our blackandgoldhockey.com website and click on our affiliated Fanatics banner before shopping online. Another way to financially support our weekly program is to become a Patreon member to be eligible for weekly Boston hockey prizes and monthly Boston Bruins hand-signed jersey giveaways. Please go to patreon.com/blackandgoldhockeypodcast and donate just $1 per episode. Many thanks for the continued support and enjoy the show.
Behind that, the Patterson Orr! Bobby Orr! Orr from the Boston Bruins!
30 seconds left in the period. The Bruins are shorthanded. Ray Bork.
Ray Bork from the faceoff circle to the right of Reggie Whitman. Fired it down and Whitmore blew it. Did he ever? To Bergeron on the drive, save, rebound, he's loose. Sagan kicks him loose. Bergeron scores! The Bruins Bergeron with the point of the dagger in their throats. They rip it out of Toronto's hands and kill the beast. The Boston Bruins have won it after being 3 down in the third.
What's up, Bruins fans? Welcome back to the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. This is episode 273, brought to you by betonline.ag. We are back. I'm your host, Mark Allred, here with my friend Kevin O'Keefe and Dom Tiano. What's up, gentlemen?
Oh, just a busy week. Had a pretty decent Bruins week, but not so good in the beginning of the week, but we'll talk about it. What's going on, Dom?
All busy week here, too, and gearing up for the playoffs. And, I got 101 OHL prospect reports to finish before the draft. So, yeah, I'm a busy guy.
Jeez.
That's awesome. And speaking of the draft and so on, you were out at the CHL Prospects Game in Kitchener, Ontario. And that was awesome. By the way, I watched that game. That was incredible.
It was. It was an incredible game.
Yeah, a lot of great talent. So I'm sure you had a blast and got a lot of work done for the eye test of the next ones that are coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, it was nice to see the Bruins well represented there. There had to be upwards of over 150 NHL GMs and scouts there at the game. So the Bruins were also well represented. So it's good to see.
Awesome. All right, before we get to our long list of things we need to talk about this week, we do need to talk about show sponsor betonline.ag. After months of playing, college basketball has determined the top teams for the Final Four in this year's national championship. Looking to place a wager on these games? Head over to the betonline.ag website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code CLNS50 to get started. That's CLNS50. BetOnline.ag remains your number one spot for all your updated odds and information, along with player props and great contests throughout the year. Your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and favorite Vegas casino games and poker games. It's super easy to get started, so join today. Learn why everyone is saying betonline.ag is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your popular sports and games. betonline.ag, it's where the game starts. All right, we are back. We just heard myself talk about betonline.ag, and please go and use the website for your gambling needs, and please do it responsible, but also please use the code CLNS50. All right, let's get into the hockey talk. We have 2 games we're going to discuss last week, starting on Tuesday night. Boston Bruins were on a 4-game winning streak, beating the Winnipeg Jets, beating the Montreal Canadiens, beating the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then beating the New York Islanders. But then having 2 days rest, which was kind of a little bit of a concern to me, but coming into TD Garden against the higher ranking Toronto Maple Leafs and really blundered it. I don't have another word to say, but we're not ready at all from the get-go. From the goal out, I was disappointed in the effort all around. And that was a game that I automatically get really hyped for because it is an original six matchup. And they are being very competitive in the Atlantic Division. So this was a really disappointing one for me. But games like this are going to happen, and I totally understand that. But it's a cause for concern when you're looking at the playoff pictures, in my opinion. But let's get the thoughts on this game from Kevin.
They didn't show up. I mean, it was, like you said, from the goal out. I don't want to put – Swayman looked nervous, like he wasn't ready for – maybe it was in his head that he was going up against, the great Austin Matthews and, Mitch Marner and, the other guys that they have there who can put the puck in the net. Maybe he was rattled a bit. But then you look at the defense, and what were they doing? Especially Clifton. What the hell was he doing? Carlo didn't have that great of a game. It was a mess back there. And when you can't transition from defense to offense, that's going to make your offense suffer as well. And I just didn't see enough to make me feel really good in that game. Now, they made a push, but that was towards the end of the game when they were down 2 defensemen. I mean, it was just a messy game. I mean, they were due for a stinker, I will say that, but not like that. It's like that's the game you got to be ready for.
Tom, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, total no-show and a shit show, if I can call it that. They just weren't ready. And, I mean, I'm not going to put much stock into it. I'll be more concerned if on game 82 of the season they show up the same way against the Leafs. Like you said, Mark, these games happen once in a while. It's too bad because, that was a legit shot at trying to secure home ice in the first round, and it just wasn't there. Obviously, Cassidy wasn't happy. He made some lineup changes for the game against the last game.
Devils.
Yeah. So, he wasn't happy. Some changes were out of necessity. And I agree with Kevin about Swayman. I think if it were me, I would have pulled him a little bit earlier.
Absolutely.
I knew when the Leafs had put 3 on the board that it wasn't going to be Swayman's night. And to get something out of the game, that's when they should have made the switch, because it was obvious he just didn't have it. From his rebound control to his handling of the puck, you name it. He just did not have it that night. No, am I worried about him? I'm not worried about him because Coach Bob will get him back on the right path.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. There's definitely room for improvement when it comes to Jeremy Swayman, and he's still learning. He's still, rookie status, coming into his first legitimate playoff games, and not just being somebody that you can lean on as a backup in a situation where, your starting goaltender gets pulled and you bring in a fresh guy to try to, get the bench riled up a little bit. But no, I mean, this game to me is, and I'm going to cherry pick from the Morning Brew and Billy Jaffe and Andrew Raycroft. They do a fantastic podcast. I think we all listen on this panel. But Andrew Raycroft mentioned a lot of things about Jeremy being nervous. He had family in town. It was original 6 matchup. But the small concern for me, guys, is just that playoff type atmosphere. And if you're nervous in that atmosphere, what are you going to actually do in a first round series against an opponent and where the action is coming at you that much harder. It's a totally different season. And to Dom's point about Bob Essenza, there is enough time for him to watch video, do a little more puck, zone entries and seeing where you can direct the pucks away from the action and danger zones and so on. But I'm not overly concerned about it. But there is just a small aspect in the back of my head that says, if he's playing nervous in this game, what's he going to do in their 7-game series?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Ray Kropp because he said something. Now, Razor's a former professional NHL goaltender, so who am I to disagree with him? But he made the comment something along the line that they're at home and he's got friends and family there, and you don't pull him in the middle of the period. You make the change at the end of the period. I can understand if that was game 10 of the regular season. But, we're fighting for home ice advantage here and trying to get ready for the playoffs. And I don't care at what point it is during the game now. If you see your goaltender doesn't have it, it's time to make the switch. And, they gave away 2 points. It was just, I would have been happier if they had lost in a shootout.
That's
at least they would have got something out of it, right?
Yes.
And to your point, Mark, with the whole how is Swayman going to be when it comes to the playoffs? I mean, we saw a glimpse of that last season when he went in against the Islanders. I believe it was game 4 or 5, one of the two. But he went in for the third period, first shot, goal. I mean, I understand this is a different year. He's got more time under his belt, but showing up like he did against the Leafs in what wasn't a playoff game, but going into the game, it had that feel because this is the team that you need to beat so you can leapfrog them and get that home ice. Now, what's going to happen if it's a game 7 against the Leafs round 1? Is he going to be too nervous to play? I mean, I hope not. Only time will tell.
Yeah, absolutely. Things to think about. And by far, we're not trashing the player at all.
No.
We're given the ample opportunity for him to rebound and so on. And I think he'll do it. It's just, it's coming down to that time where we just all have to come together. Your defense and your goaltending have to be one. And the goal is to not have one get by you and do the best you can. And the defense definitely needs to step it up too. Connor Clifton had a really bad game. And, Brandon Carlo continues to struggle. He's on a roller coaster this season. But I don't know. It's just, it was tough to watch actually, and definitely tough to even pop on Twitter.
Clifton bummed me out.
Yeah.
Bad. I was like, dude, you've been doing really well lately. It seemed like, getting a guy like Josh Brown in there kind of started to propel him towards what we want him to be able to do as a bottom pair right defenseman. But that game was a huge step back for him. It was tough.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that's what you get with Clifton. It's exactly what you get. He goes in stretches. Honestly, guys, I'll say it. And I don't care who comes at me on Twitter, but Connor Clifton is not a number 6 NHL defenseman.
Agreed.
He's not, because you don't get the best of them 82 games a year. In the playoffs, if he's my number 6 for 27 games or however number they play, you're not winning.
I agree.
Yeah.
He might be able to give you a series against Washington, which he did, but beyond that.
Yeah. Moving on to the next game last week. It was Thursday night at the TD Garden against the New Jersey Devils in a big bounce back game. You had 1 day of rest, and I think that the message got told that we need to come out, we need to battle hard, and we need these 2 points regardless of the opponent. New Jersey's not very good this year, not like Toronto on Tuesday night, but it was a big statement game, and they just beat the bag out of the Devils 8-1. And an unbelievable effort from Brad Marchand, David Pasternak, Matt Grzelcyk with 4 apples. It was just one of those nights, and it was kind of a response win to the Maple Leafs game. And Linus Ullmark was solid in net. We didn't get to. Connor Clifton was taken out of the lineup, and Josh Brown was in the lineup, and it was a good thing that Josh Brown gets in there, gets a fight going on. Welcome to Boston kind of thing. But that was pretty much it for him for the game. Really didn't get to see much of him and his defensive responsibilities and how he can act on them. So hopefully we get to see that maybe even tonight against Columbus, or maybe even in Columbus. So thoughts on this New Jersey game, starting with Kevin?
I mean, like you said, bounce back game. And sometimes it takes a game like what you saw in Toronto to see a game in what you saw against New Jersey. I mean, it was night and day, and I know I've used this statement plenty of times, but it holds true here. I mean, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. That was the perfect way to show what this team can be. Where sometimes you're not sure what you're going to get. And I understand that, the teams are different. You have Toronto and then you have New Jersey. But it's still an NHL team, and there's parity in the league. And to put up 8 on any team in the league, that's a big deal. They were really feeling it. They came out pumped up. They wanted to bounce back, and they did. And another name not to sleep on there is Jake DeBrusk. What a game. I mean, he was in there. I believe he had a goal and 2 helpers, I believe is what he had. I could be mistaken because I didn't look that up. I should have. Dom, it's your fault. But you should have had that for me, Dom. And then
I nodded, didn't I?
You did. He agreed. Thank you, Kip. But it's just one of those games where you're really happy to see it. Mark McLaughlin getting on the board, BC guy, Bill Ricker native out of Massachusetts. What a shot, too, he had. That was a nice little 1-T from the slot, pass from Frederick, and you love to see that. The kid was pumped up. He had a good game. He looks good. Just a lot to be excited about with that game.
Yeah, it was a bounce back, and to me it was a matter of showing what they can do. Now, if it's Carolina or Tampa or Toronto, they're not going to put 8 past them. But if they play like that, they can shut them down. And that's the key in the playoffs, is being able to shut the opponent down. Now, Kevin already touched on Jake DeBrusk, so I'm going to touch on a player who gets a lot of shit from NHL Bruins fans for his lack of physicality, and I saw you pointing there, Kevin, and all that. And it's Mike Riley. When Miles Wood threw that tremendous check, which was a clean hit, by the way, on Charlie McAvoy, no hesitation, went right after him, and kudos to him for standing up. Like, he was physical in that game. Riley was actually quite physical. I think it was Brick who said it during the podcast that Woods was lucky it was Mike Riley that went after him, because Trent Frederick was coming in with eyes wide open, right? So it's nice to see the team bonding that way.
Mike Riley, I mean, it's funny too, because I knew that's where you were going with that. Like, I just had a feeling, because we've talked about this before. Mike Riley actually has been playing more physical as of late, and it's helping. It's not only helping himself out to be in the lineup, but it's helping the team out, because this team needs that type of physicality, especially in the playoffs. And when it comes to Brown, I mean, he plays his best hockey when he can be physical, when he can get the body on guys. Other than that, he's a pylon, in my opinion. Like, he's there. He's probably going to get burnt. But if you can give me a pairing of Riley on the left and Forbort on the right, I'd be happy, because I think Forbort on his offside.
I think it's the other way around.
I don't think so, though. I think Riley is better suited on his left side. I don't like what I saw from him on his right side, and I think Forbort, who plays more of a shutdown, stay in your lane type of game, I think he'd be better on his offside. And he was touted to us to be able to play his offside.
Yeah.
So I don't see why we haven't seen that yet. I don't understand. I to this day will never understand. But I think all right. So let's go with what you said. Whether it's Riley or Forbort, I think either of them on their offside is a better option than Brown or Clifton every night.
Yep, 100% agree. 100% agree. And I know there are Mike Riley haters out there that are just not going to agree with us, but give me the lineup that gives you the best chance to win. And to me, that's Connor Clifton not in the lineup.
Yep. Yeah. Clifton and Brown being depth pieces. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No, that's what I was going to say. It's like all these guys are going to be, vying for position coming down to the end of the season and into the playoffs. And I think Mike Riley is going to be heavily leaned on because of that game against New Jersey and so on and how we stepped up. I mean, that just speaks volumes to the coaching staff and so on. And to have a Clifton, as a depth guy isn't bad. You can use him in a case of an emergency, but like Dom said, you have to put the lineup together that's going to get you the 2 points going down here because, the Boston Bruins have moved back into the first wild card spot. They're 3 points behind Toronto in the Atlantic. I think that's 2. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2. 3 behind.
3 behind Tampa.
3 behind
exactly.
Tampa.
That's what I was looking at. Numbers, they're all messed up in my head. But that Toronto game was really, really, when you look at the standings, if we won that and then beat New Jersey like they did, we'd definitely be sitting a little more comfortable right now.
We'd be sole possession of second place.
Yeah, right behind Florida, who's leading the way with 98 points and having a tremendous year.
There's another player we should touch on in that game because of Bruins fans' hatred towards a certain player, and that's Anton Bleed. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you were.
I was going to guess Eric Halla, so continue.
No, because Bruins fans are coming around to Halla, but
are they though? Is it out of necessity because there's no more deadline?
No, I think.
Or is it because they're actually coming around on him?
The fans I talk to, they're coming around on him.
Well, I'm going to go with the former for most. I feel like
there are plenty of them that think he deserves consideration for the NESN 7th Player Award. So, but Bleed, what a game he had against Jersey, man, good game. Now everybody's talking about sitting Foligno to keep Bleed in the lineup. I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's tough because we've talked about this before too. I mean, I think all three of us have been beating the Bleed drum for a while on how good of a player he can be, how he deserves to be in this lineup. But when it comes to Foligno, he has things that he can give to this team and intangibles that Bleed can't. And when it comes to the playoffs, you're going to want to rally around a guy like Foligno. You're going to want to get him that cup. Now whether or not what they do is they have Bleed in for certain games and Foligno in for certain games, I'd be fine with that. Kind of allow them to interchange, especially during the regular season, given Foligno time to rest up for the playoffs too. But, I mean, certain matchups, put one of the two guys in. I mean, I don't see an issue with it.
Yeah, I mean, you could do the same with Connor Clifton if you're playing, let's say, Washington, because I really, really do like the way Clifton handles Alex Ovechkin. I really do. But he doesn't handle everybody the same way. So pick your opponent, pick your spots where you can use these guys. I don't know. It's a tough call between Bleed and Foligno. Will they sit Foligno for Bleed? I don't think so, because like you said, Kevin, too many intangibles there to to take out of the lineup.
Yeah. Leadership, too, is a big quality, especially on this Boston Bruins team moving forward. This organization has been known for players that are like that, veterans that are always there to lean on with the younger crew that, haven't been in the Stanley Cup Finals before, and new members that are coming into the team that haven't seen a postseason yet. So it should be interesting how everything comes together. And it really should be interesting on how the month of March is going to work out, because there's a lot of interesting matchups there. It's going to be hard and heavy coming down to the wire.
And here's a quick little example of that. Game 7, 2019. Who did they sit?
Oh, shit. I don't remember.
David Backes. They sat David Backes, even though he could have went out there and played a very physical, bottom six, grindy type game, which they needed in a game like that. And they could have rallied around that guy facing his former team in the Blues, and they could have really, I'm not saying they win the game if they put Foligno in, but why sit him in that situation? Not Foligno, Backes. Why sit him in that situation? I mean, and I feel like if you were to sit Foligno in the playoffs, I think it would kind of be the same type of deal there. It's like, that's a guy you can rally around. That's a guy who imagine David Backes in the locker room in between periods 1 and 2 of that 2019 playoffs. Oh, he would have been going nuts, pumping the team up, but instead he's sitting on the ninth floor.
And it's not just the fact that they sat Backes. They sat him for Carson MF Kuhlman. And I won't tell you what the MF stands for, because...
Yeah, that was a tough one. Another year that, just that bad bounces ruin everybody's day. Why don't we move on to the next topic, and that is North Bill Ricca. Recently retired Boston Bruins goaltender Tuukka Rask was honored before the Devils game on Thursday night. Says he's going to be an ambassador for the team. Thoughts on his career and his new role, which could open doors for something else in the and possibly in management. Who knows? Like player development or something like that. But go ahead, Kevin.
In my opinion, best Boston Bruins goaltender of all time. I don't care about the team award of a Stanley Cup, even though he does have one as a backup goaltender. He was so poised. He had 2 runs that were very similar to Tim Thomas's run in 2011 with a lesser defensive core. I need to point that out because one of the biggest reasons why that 2011 team won the Cup was because their defensive structure and their defensive core was so rock solid. I mean, obviously Thomas had an incredible run as well, but I don't know if he does that without that defense. They were absolutely incredible, and they saved his bacon more times than I can count on 2 hands in that Stanley Cup Finals. And but for Tuukka Rask, it's just I almost teared up. Like, I was at my bowling league too on Thursday, so I didn't even get to hear it. But just seeing him with his family standing there, God, it sucks because his career was ended by injury. He didn't go out on his own terms, and that sucks. He could still be here playing for us right now. And how much better this team would be if they had a Tuukka Rask behind this defensive core. My God. But a lot of people will turn around and say, oh, well, he's a choker. He's this, he's that. I don't want to hear that shit. I mean, if you're going to sit there and call Tuukka Rask a choker, this, that, and that, then I'm sorry. You just don't have. You really shouldn't be talking about it. You really shouldn't, and I don't care. I'm going to say that because it really strikes a nerve with me. When it comes to people hating on him because he didn't win a team award as an individual. He wasn't able to get a hat trick and get a shutout in Game 19. In 2019 of Game 7. So he's a bum, and I think we should move on to Dom.
Go ahead, Dom.
I don't know where I rank him in terms of my favorite Bruins goaltenders, because there's Tuukka, there's Timmy, there's Jerry Cheevers. Hell, I was a huge Reggie Lemelin fan for, breaking the Montreal curse. So, I mean, he's up there with one of my favorites. I think Jerry Cheevers is probably my favorite. In terms of where he ranks, I don't know. I never got to see Tiny Thompson play, but incredible numbers in the NHL. I think if the Bruins were to retire a number for a goaltender, I think they'd have to start with Tiny Thompson. So that's the way I look at it. Would Tuukka be up there eventually? Yeah. For some reason, they just don't retire goaltender numbers. As a matter of fact, I think probably Jerry Cheevers' number would get retired before Tuukka's. But the ambassador job, I think Tuukka made it very clear he doesn't want a management role, Mark. This is something that he would like to do as an ambassador and, get to shake people's hands. I don't think he's interested in any type of coaching or development position.
No, that's fair. And he did mention that he'd like to do this handshaking and so on and take clients out to play golf because he's an avid golfer and so on. So, that's always good. But looking back at Tuukka's career, he's the Bruins all-time leader amongst goaltenders in wins with 308, postseason wins with 57, games played with 564, and postseason games played with 104. Rask ranks third in NHL history in save percentage. That's .921 behind two unbelievable goaltenders, Dominic Hasek and Ken Dryden. Both who have .922s. And Rask is one of 39 goalies in the league history to reach the 300-win plateau. So nothing to,
It's hard to say where he ranks amongst Bruins goaltenders, but one thing's for certain, he is the best goaltender ever to play in the NHL, drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I love it. I love the jabs, my friend. I absolutely love it. All right, let's move on to another topic. Northfield Rickers' own Mark McLaughlin makes his Boston Bruins debut versus the New Jersey Devils and scores a goal in his first game in front of families and friends. We did touch on that a little bit earlier, but what a moment for a Mass native, one of 5 in league in team history, franchise history, to score a goal in his first game. And with the amount of years that this Boston Bruins team has been around since 1924, and having years and years of talent locally, that number really surprises me that it hasn't happened more often. And I know it's a real shake of the dice when you get a kid in there with absolutely no NHL experience coming from Boston College, NCAA. It's a tough transition, but I thought he really held his own. I think he used his body. He was a physical aspect out in the ice, and I think he was good in his gap control by that play with Trent Frederick. It got away from a back checker really effectively to set himself up for that one-time snipe past, I believe it was the backup goalie. I can't remember his name. He was a Maine Mariner this season. John Gillies. Basically just, the first shot on Gillies that was taken was from Mark McLaughlin. So, shout out to him and family and the crowd. The whole crew up there was having a blast. And the celly from him was just an ultimate one for your first goal. So, any more thoughts on Mark McLaughlin and where he fits in? Where do we go from here with him? Is this just so, hey, let's get you a taste and we need you because you're recovering from somebody else that got taken out of the lineup? Or is he somebody that could be something in process moving forward, and somebody that maybe a younger guy that Cassidy can have a little more trust in.
It's funny. This goes back a little bit because I was watching a BC game. It was against Providence, and I was watching because I was looking at McBain, of course, because I was big on the hype train of getting that guy in here. But I noticed McLaughlin, and I was like, this kid's good. I mean, this kid's really good. And he scored 2 goals that game, one of them being the OT winner. And I turned to my girlfriend and I said, I highly doubt the Bruins are going to be able to get McBain, but I do think they have a good shot at getting this Mark McLaughlin kid, and I'd love to see them do it. And then they got him, and I was pretty thrilled about it. A lot of people were. A lot of people were pretty thrilled about it because he's got a good game. He's got a good game, and I think it translates well to the NHL. Now, aside from that goal that we saw for him, which was a fantastic goal, I mean, like you said, he positioned himself very well. He was able to put a nice shot. And what I liked about that shot, too, is he went across his body to make sure that it went far post instead of trying to rifle it right at him when he was sliding side to side. He really caught him off guard there with that shot, and that's a good shot. That's some good hockey IQ. I really enjoyed that. So, but aside from that goal, he played the game well. Like you said, he wasn't a liability. He was up and down the ice at a good pace. He looked NHL ready. Now, does that mean every game's going to be like that for him? Probably not. I think he's definitely going to. I mean, we all know here we're all the type of people to say, let's give him some time in Providence, really work on his professional game a bit. Like you like to say, Mark, the AHL game comes at you a lot faster, so allow him to kind of get that pace going, because not every game is going to be against the New Jersey Devils at the Boston level. That was a good game to get him into, to get his feet wet. But giving him some time in Providence, allowing him to maybe play on that top line or the second line there. For me, I don't know. I'd like to see him play at the center position because we are in desperate need of, center depth. But I don't think he'd ever be a first-line center, so maybe there is a point to put him on the wing, maybe. But then you got Lascelles there, you got Steen there. So it's almost a little bit of a logjam. But I think if he does really well in Providence, he'll see more games here in Boston up the stretch, especially when they need to rest people.
Dom, your thoughts on Mark McLaughlin?
First, it looks like Riley's going on the right and Forbert on the left for tonight. Sorry, Kevin.
There it is. Dom is right, and I'm wrong. There it is.
So, McLaughlin, to me, it was never a point or a question on whether the Bruins were going to sign him. Other teams were interested, but he was going nowhere other than Boston if a contract offer came from Boston. That said, I don't put too much stock into one game because the adrenaline level is through the roof when you're playing your first NHL game. So you have to take that into consideration. Second, how much time is it going to be? I think barring injuries or resting someone, he's just here to burn the year off his entry-level contract. He's not getting regular time barring those, because who are you going to take out of the lineup to play him?
Mm-hmm.
Valid point. Very
Nobody.
valid.
So he's just there to get a taste of what the NHL is like, fill in for injury, and maybe rest somebody. I do believe the Bruins want to develop him as a center, not a winger. I really do believe that. And it wouldn't surprise me now that he's burned that year, whether that he goes down to the AHL and Providence after maybe one more shot in the NHL or one more game.
Yeah, and he could very well could be an effective player down in Providence with the Ryan Mujanel system. And those guys down there that's currently sitting in the second position in the Atlantic Division in the American Hockey League, and right behind the Springfield Falcons, the Thunderbirds, who are leading the way. Both teams played last night, and it was a 0-0 tie through 60, but Springfield came out and won it in overtime. It was a tough one. Troy Grosnick really played well. It was tough to see him lose that one. But, Providence is really starting to pick it up a little bit. They've been, traditionally they always start at the big bottom of the division and work their way up to the front of it, like mid-season when everybody gets healthy and the NHL parent team is done cycling through their injured players and so on. So he could definitely be a valued asset down there. And, it remains to be seen what happens with Fabian Lysell. He could also be an addition to the right side in Providence once his commitment with the WHL Vancouver Giants is over. So there's some good pieces that are going to be, down there. And I think McLaughlin will kind of thrive a little bit and really round out his professional game by getting the experience down there as well. And then, a long summer in Boston, working out with the team. Who knows where he fits in next year's lineup when there might be a few departures that allow him to secure a spot.
I feel like you're the perfect guy for all this stuff too. So, there's been some other movement in Providence that I think we should definitely talk about. I mean, Boston Bruins did trade Brady Lyle, who had another full season on a two-way contract to the St. Louis Blues for future considerations. What is a type of move like that mean for the Providence Bruins?
For me, it was kind of weird. I thought, and I'm not saying that Lyle was playing at a high level this year. Actually, I thought he regressed hard this season, and I kind of think that maybe it was because of the landscape in front of him that had him a little bit, I don't know, maybe nervous about where he fits in the organization. And he might have, I don't have any information on this at all, but he might have asked for a trade because of that landscape in front of him. And he might have a better opportunity with another organization working from the American Hockey League up to the pro level. And whether he gets to the St. Louis Blues, that remains to be seen. But it does open up a lot of speculation, with that roster spot. There's a plethora of left shot defensemen down in Providence right now. And does that move the needle to sign somebody else out of the NCAA? And I had this in the agenda, and I don't know. I'm just kind of getting the feeling that Mason Lowry might be a one and done at Ohio State. And I'm not saying that I want that to happen. I don't want this aggressive approach to get him in the pro levels, but I'm just getting the vibe the Boston Bruins want to get him involved sooner rather than later, in case they don't go all out this season and possibly get him involved in I don't know how to word this, but get him involved sooner rather than later. I'm not saying at the NHL level, but just at the pro system, the pro feel, and so on, and then evaluate from there going forward into next season.
I truly think that Lowry is the way I look at his season, his freshman season, I don't think there's much more he can learn at the NCAA level. I think you're spot on. I think the Boston Bruins are looking to definitely bring him up and sign him and get him straight on to the Providence Bruins, because that's where he's going to get more growth. I mean, look at his season as a freshman in the NCAA. I mean, that's like junior, senior level, quality of play. I mean, the kid is just bounds above and beyond what a lot of even those older players in the NCAA are. It's crazy.
Yeah, but also keep in mind that he had an outstanding USHL final year with the Green Bay Gamblers. He was Defenseman of the Year and so on. So there's a lot of accolades that go along with this type of player. And he's raw. I mean, this is a player that was a former forward and became a defenseman later on. That's something that a lot of people push back on me when I brought this out on Twitter, for what it's worth, saying that, he hasn't played defense long enough to really have that trust yet. But that's why I lean on a lot of people like Dom on stuff like this. So, Dom, I know you didn't come out and say that it's a definite going to happen and so on, but you did mention that you kind of have a feeling that it could happen too, correct?
Guys, I'm going to be honest. I missed 90% of that conversation because I don't know. I'm having technical issues here. So I have no idea what you guys were talking about.
To sum it up quickly, Mason Lohrei, the comments.
Well, I know it started with Brady Lyle, so I'm going to go there first.
Okay.
Okay. Brady Lyle has regressed. And the Bruins have brought in Grant Gabriel for next season, Jacob Wilson, Mike Callahan. They got Jack Ashawn to re-sign. They have to make a decision on Nick Wolf. They got J.D. Greenway sitting in Maine. Cody Curran is a UFA. Aaron Ness is a UFA. Tyler Lewington is a UFA. They've already got 8 bodies under their control for Providence next year. Lyle would have made 9. Lohrei, if he comes out, makes 10. So it's a question of space, roster spots, and with Lyle regressing, he was the odd man out. As for Lohrei, all I can say is that I know personally the Bruins would like him to return to school for one more year, but if Lohrei wants to turn pro, the decision is his. They will sign him.
Okay.
Okay, it's as simple as that. I don't know. I've heard which way he's leaning, and I'd rather not say because I like to protect my information. So, we're going to find out soon enough. I think the one that's interesting is Johnny Beecher and what he's going to do once, next Saturday is the NCAA final.
Yep, in Boston at TD Garden.
Yeah, they got to win Thursday first, right?
Right.
I think from everything I've been told, he's turning pro as soon as he's done. So, it's a total revamp of the Providence roster for next season. Total revamp. Ian McKinnon looks like he's gone with signing Joey Abate out of Nebraska Omaha. Cameron Hughes is a Group 6 UFA. I mean, there's a lot of bodies going out and a bunch of new ones coming in. Even look at the goaltending. Grosnick, like you said, had a great game last night, is a UFA making $350,000 on a 2-way contract playing in the AHL.
And he's having a fantastic year for a 32-year-old.
Yeah. Kalen Booth becomes a Group 6 UFA. Jeremy Brodeur is still under an AHL contract, is a UFA. The only guy they have the rights to is Kyle Kaiser, who's a restricted free agent. Now, we all know they brought in a big kid, so I'm sure we'll get to him, but...
It's a perfect segue. I mean, Boston Bruins did add the goaltending depth by adding NCAA Western Michigan University Brandon Bussi. Am I saying that correctly? Bussi, Bussi?
Bussi.
Bussi.
Bussi, yeah.
Bussi, okay. He had a good campaign for 2021-2022 and got the Broncos far in this year's regional tournament. So what are you guys' thoughts on that signing?
Go ahead, Tom.
Big athletic goaltender who can steal games for you. And, like I said, they're down to one goalie. They were down to one goalie for next year, and that was Kyle Kaiser, if they even choose to re-sign him. I mean, I'm hearing there's other goaltenders out there, NCAA free agents that could be in for the taking, but we'll wait and see. I don't think they want to give up on Kaiser just yet because of the injury history they've had, but with Bussi and Kaiser manning the net in Providence, and with Swayman and Allmark at the NHL level, and then you got Philip Svedebek heading to college next year. You've got some decent and good goaltending depth.
Yep.
Now, I know quickly. I know you guys don't like to. Dom. I know Dom doesn't like to make NHL comparisons, but for this Boosie kid, I love saying it, Boosie. Do you think he could be comparable to like a Markstrom just based on size and the ability to steal a game?
I'm not good at comparisons either. So
I would say Boosie's a little more athletic. The thing about Markstrom is he never gives up on a puck. He could look like he's down and out of the play and all of a sudden find a way to make that save. I would need to see that from Boosie at the professional level to say that he's at the Markstrom comparable. It's one thing to do it in college. It's a different thing to do it in the AHL or NHL. So before I go that far, I'd like to see him at least through half a season at the AHL level.
Gotcha.
For me, this goaltending depth addition is a low risk, possible high reward kind of replacement for Dan Vladar and his size. I think that Bob Essenza and Mike Dunham worked very well with Dan when he was with the Boston Bruins organization, particularly when he got that high ankle sprain up in Laval, Quebec, against the Rocket, and was out for several weeks. But during that rehab and rehabilitation and so on, they worked well with him. And I think that he's not going to be like the replacement, but like I said, it's just a solid signing to get somebody, a bigger netminder in the fold, because like Dom said, we don't know what's going to happen with Troy Grosenick if he's coming back or not. We don't know about Kyle Kaiser, so we do need to get somebody else involved. Not every move is for the NHL. It's also for sustainability in your minor pro levels. I know a lot of people push back on me saying we don't need a goalie, we need a scorer. Why are we getting goalies? It's part of the process. You got to take your blinders off of just the NHL and look deeper in the organization, because you always need somebody next up. The next man up always has to happen, regardless of what position you play on the ice. So I think that getting a guy like this involved, and I mean, Dunham was a big goalie. I think that he translates well with bigger netminders and keeping them calm in the crease, and that's what they did with Vladar. It was less movements for Vladar, but better puck positioning and so on. So I think it's a solid move. It seems like he's a hardworking kid. And the biggest thing I took out of this whole thing was, and I'm not sure who said it, but it was his ability to keep learning and developing that was more attractive for a goaltender at his age coming out of college. So they believe that they can continue to work on this guy, and he's a small piece probably in the bigger picture. Who knows? But those are the risks you have to take with young players like this.
And like McLaughlin, Boosie got offers from what I'm hearing, at least a dozen NHL teams. But like McLaughlin, for him, it was Boston, and it was only Boston. That's where he wanted to be, and all they had to do was offer him a contract, and he was signing on the dotted line.
And one thing I do want to add about Boosie is I wrote an article about a quick one, but I added a video when he was at Western Michigan about his goalie mask and what it meant to him. And Boosie has a brother that's autistic, and I thought that was a really cool thing to do to honor his younger sibling. And that shows a lot of character, in my opinion. It's not just I really like that. The video was only a couple minutes long, but it really spoke volumes to me about how much he cares for family and friends, and that's the type of thing that you see the Boston Bruins really address when it comes to character. All right. Where are we going now, Kevo?
I mean, I think that, I mean, because when you look at all these movements with Providence and stuff like that, it starts to make you think about the NHL roster too, and where they're going to need to go in a form of, their roster spots. And the news out of the general managers meetings in Florida this week is that the NHL salary cap will be going up $1 million to 82.5. Is that enough for the Bruins to work with if they don't, win it all this year to go in all next season? What do you guys think?
That's why I brought this up on the agenda, because I wanted to talk to Dom about it, because you're just a fantastic person that does your research on Cap Friendly and Puckpedia, which one you use, but you provide some really good cap information. But this one's to you, Dom. Is this enough to really push the needle forward? I know it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the Bruins are well-positioned cap-wise. Is one thing I never worry about is the cap, because if you have to move out money, there are ways to do it, i.e. John Moore at trade deadline. So I don't worry about it. Where I think Evan Gold has set the Bruins up for the next 2 years, because not next year, right? The following year, we could be seeing a cap anywhere from the $85 million to $87 million range.
Wow.
Jesus. I know that the experts out there are predicting we won't see it till 24-25 season. But that's where I see it. So by the end of that season, the players shall have paid back the owners just about everything that they owed them in the 50-50 split because of the pandemic. So I think the Bruins, cap-wise, are set up much better than a lot of the quote-unquote contenders, and I have no worry about the cap. If anything, that $1 million helps all those other teams that have to go into long-term injury reserve space more than it helps out the Bruins.
Vegas.
Yep. Yeah. Vegas, Tampa, Toronto, Montreal, even though they're a bottom dweller. You name them. That $1 million helps them out more than the Bruins. So, you're going to see Chris Wagner back in the AHL, which will save them another $1 million. Only cost $225,000 towards the cap. I imagine that somebody like Riley or Forbert are gone, one or the other, but not both. I think you'll see Jakub Zboril re-sign at, I don't know, probably a Connor Clifton $1 million a year deal for 1, maybe 2 seasons. I think Clifton, when he signed his, was for 3 years. So they have maneuverability. I mean, you got to think that the roster, other than Patrice Bergeron, is pretty much locked up for next year.
Mm-hmm. Now, that's interesting. You say they'll trade one of Riley or Forbort, and they'll sign a guy like Zboril. It's interesting to me because Zboril is a left shot. Now, can he play right side at all, or is he strictly left side?
Definitely.
He can't play right side.
Don't forget, he was in junior hockey. He was paired with Thomas Chabot of the Ottawa Senators, right?
Yep, I remember that.
And played predominantly the right side. In fact, through junior, he played the right side a hell of a lot more than he played the left side. And even Cassidy has used him on the right side on occasion. So I would say that he's as good on the right side as he is on the left side. And I know it was only 10 games into the season this year before he got injured, but of all the Bruins defensemen that they've used this year, he was probably the best at being able to play his offside. I don't know if the best is the right term, but he was the most capable of playing the offside.
It makes sense.
Okay. So give me – all right, so if I had to choose between trading either Riley or Forbort, I'm trading Forbort because I think Riley – I mean, even though Riley has the better value, I think his better value is on your team. And if you can have a Riley-Zaboral third pairing, I think you're in a great spot.
Well, to touch on that real quick, Riley has better transition than Forbort does. So that itself right here, it speaks higher volumes, in my opinion. But Forbort also has that kind of shutdown mentality, the bigger body in front of the net and can move a player. Not saying Riley can't do that, but yeah, I would honestly say Riley would be a little bit higher on the echelon, in my opinion.
Yeah, but Cassidy likes to use a shutdown guy with a player that can transition, and Zaboral can transition.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about Hampus Lindholm. Okay?
Oh, yes, please.
As good as Lindholm is, and I forget whether it was Jack or Brick that said it during the broadcast, that Lindholm makes McAvoy better and McAvoy makes Lindholm better. Mm-hmm. And I totally agree with that. As great as the numbers were, the analytics with Matt Grzelcyk and Charlie McAvoy, they're on a different level with Lindholm and McAvoy. And you can see it in McAvoy's game. The 4 or 5 games that since they've acquired Lindholm. He's free to be Charlie McAvoy now because he knows he has Hampus Lindholm back there to save his bacon, if I can call it that. Whereas with Matt Grzelcyk there, I don't think McAvoy was afforded that freedom, knowing that he had to also worry about defense, if that makes any sense.
Total sense.
100. I mean, I've been saying this going back to the one that I really like to use as an example, even though I don't think that Erik Karlsson and Charlie McAvoy have similar games. They have different games. Karlsson's more of an offensive-minded guy. But there's no way in hell that Erik Karlsson was ever going to have the Norris season that he did if it wasn't for having a guy like Gonchar, Mark Method to his left. There was no way. Yep. Lindholm is that guy. Lindholm, I've been beating this drum since before the season even started that I wanted this guy in here really freaking bad. And as the season went along and the Ducks were doing good and this and that, people were telling me it's probably not going to happen because the Ducks are doing good. I'm like, wait for them to come back down to earth. You're going to see. They'll come back down to earth. They will trade the guy. It will happen. And here he is, Boston Bruin. My God. My enthusiasm is through the roof. Because and then when we did get him, or even before we got him, you had people saying, "Oh, well, look at his player card. Look at the colors on his player card. He's not that good anymore. Blah blah blah. He's regressing." No, he's not. He's playing on Anaheim. He's playing with a 19-year-old defensive pairing guy on the top pairing.
Drysdale.
Yeah, the analytics piss me off sometimes because it doesn't tell the whole damn story. Right. Lindholm is a fantastic player. He's a top pairing defenseman who you now have at $6.5 million. $6.5 million. And I think that is going to be a steal of a contract in a year. In a year, I think you're going to be looking at that contract and being like, God, he should be making 7.5. Like, he's that freaking good. And like Dom said, you're seeing it already. It looks like the guy has been a Bruin his whole career in the first 5 games that he's played for us. I mean, what's there not to love about this top pairing? This top pairing, they got to be top 5.
They bring out the best in each other. They challenge each other to be better. And if one makes a mistake, the other one's right there. But nobody can tell me, if they take their gold-colored glasses off, that you haven't seen a noticeable difference in Charlie McAvoy and his willingness and ability to jump up and go on offense, nobody can tell me they haven't seen that difference between playing with Lindholm and playing with Grzelcyk. No matter how good the analytics said Grzelcyk and McAvoy were, because they are on another level, way beyond a Grzelcyk McAvoy pairing.
And that main reason is because Grzelcyk is not a top pairing guy. I think he's a good number 4 guy in your defense, but beyond that, he was playing 2 positions above where he should be, in my opinion. Yeah. You know, he's a number 4 guy who can transition the puck well, give you a decent to good two-way game. I like Grzelcyk. I think he's a top 4 guy, but like we talked about before on this podcast, a guy like Jack Ashan, the reason why he won't ever be able to be considered a top pairing guy, is because the size isn't there. And sometimes it is about size. It really is. At 5'9", it's really tough to be a top pairing guy. It's really tough. I mean, there's so many aspects to the game that you have to be able to account for. You're going up against the team's best players night in, night out on a top pairing. And I don't think Grzelcyk has the frame to be able to hold up for that. I mean, maybe regular season situationally, sure. I'm totally fine with that pairing. But in the playoffs, it's not. If you were to tell me there was a Stanley Cup winning team with Matt Grzelcyk as your top pairing left shot defenseman, I tell you you're lying. It can't be a thing. And I know the analytics darlings out there are going to come from my head, but I don't care. You know, there's more to it than analytics and reading a card.
Yeah. I think you've got to look at it. And I know that others have talked about this ad nauseum, but when you have the option in a Game 7 to have Charlie McAvoy or Hampus Lindholm out there for 50 minutes of a 60-minute game versus a Charlie McAvoy or a Matt Grzelcyk for 40 minutes a game, I'm taking my chances with the former over the latter every single time. Yeah.
And to me, it's all about the calmness that you're seeing in Charlie McAvoy now. He just seems like he's a more relaxed player, that he knows that the defensive liabilities can be relied on with a pairing like Lindholm and his experience. And to get him into the fold for 8 years at his age right now is certainly a good one, because both of them are going to thrive on that top pairing for a long time. And another good thing about Lindholm is not versatility, left to right shot and so on, but it's where he can go in the lineup. He can also be slotted down if needed. Not saying it's going to happen on the regular, but if you need that depth, you need to pick it up on a certain line. He could be dropped down with a guy like Carlo and so on if Carlo could struggles. But I wouldn't make that move for a permanent one either. But we've known Bruce Cassidy to shuffle things around as well.
Yeah, and Lindholm does have some offensive flair to his game too.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
You know, and like Dom said, this guy can transition the damn puck. Yep. I think he might be the best on this team at transitioning the puck from east to west. I mean, I really do.
East to west, yeah. I think north-south, it's McAvoy.
Yeah.
And to bring this a little bit further, like we were talking about earlier, the Boston Bruins like to construct their team where they have a transitional puck mover with a shutdown type guy. Well, Lindholm is all of that in the same package, but now you have McAvoy able to jump up on the offense, like you were saying, a lot more. And then now you have Grzelcyk, who does have a lot of offensive capabilities, who can now show those a lot more because he's next to a guy like Brandon Carlo, who can save his bacon. And you don't have to. I mean, Carlo can have this type of offensive type nights. He can have them, but mainly he's a guy who likes to be positional. He likes to stay his lane. He likes to make sure that he's, keeping, his end nice and tight. He likes to make sure everything is good there. So I think that allows, kind of like how McAvoy is allowed to jump up on the offense. I think Grzelcyk now has that. Now, of course, we need to see more from Carlo as far as being able to be that steady presence guy, because he's been kind of weird this season. But hopefully that pairing will be solid, and then Forbort Riley, you'd have the same thing there. You'd have the shutdown guy in Forbort, Riley, that transitional guy who can jump in on the offense. I think the defense, if this, especially if this third pairing works out well, I think your defense is pretty solid.
Yeah, because I think that's what Clifton's issue is the last few games is he's trying to become that transitional guy, and he just isn't. Yeah, he's great for a rush here or there, but he was trying too much to be that transitional guy on the third pairing. Another guy that I really think we need to talk about heading into the playoffs, and I say playoffs speaking of now because we really are in the playoffs right now, where every game, every point, every shift means something in terms of positioning for the playoffs. So we really are in the playoffs right now, and that's Trent Frederic. Okay, great pass on that McLaughlin goal. We already touched on that, but his game, this is what Trent Frederic's game is suited for: playoff hockey, and we saw it against New Jersey. There were times he was in beast mode. We didn't see it against Toronto. We didn't see it from anybody. But you go back over the last couple of games, that this is what is suited for him. And a lot of what the third line does moving forward is going to be dependent on how Trent Frederic brings his game to the next, not so much Charlie Coyle, but Trent Frederic. Now, I'm not calling him a driver because I think Coyle's still the driver on that line. And I'm not calling him the goal scorer because Craig Smith is still the goal scorer on that line. But for it all to connect, it's going to come down to Trent Frederic. And I'm curious on your thoughts on that.
I like the third line for three different reasons, because up the middle, you have Charlie Coyle, who's a master at the puck possession, in my opinion. Kind of that Yager type of style that just puts that ass out there and it just blocks anything that's coming at him. You have the toughness, the grittiness in Trent Frederic on the left side that can bring some jam to that line. But you also have a shooting aspect of Craig Smith on the right side, who seems to just get that puck and just fire it on net. And like a comparable, it's probably not a fair comparable, but it's like the way that Chris Kreider, the New York Rangers, is playing this year. He is absolutely on fire this year. I think he's already got maybe 40 goals. I think he passed that plateau recently. But Kreider this year is also kind of similar to Smith. Once he gets the puck, it's a split second, and he's just firing it on net and creating options, whether it be a goal or a second opportunity for somebody crashing the net. And I like that in the line, because you get three different aspects of different game styles on that third line. And I think that's why it's been so successful right now.
Frederic, 9 points in 14 games since March 1st. Who would have thought we'd be saying that?
Yeah. And a lot of people just don't have the patience for him, because he's a former number one pick and he's not scoring 40 goals and so on. And everybody pretty much, well, not everybody, but most of the fan base just thinks that they expect more from him. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the guy. He's going to contribute in other ways of the game that are going to keep him in the lineup.
Late round first pick, you're lucky that you got a third liner out of that. I mean, there's so many busts around that point, for certain drafts. I mean, you got a good, solid third liner who's going to play you some playoff hockey. I mean, he's more valuable than a Pat Maroon, in my opinion.
Yeah,
the guy can actually put the puck in the net. Yeah. He can bruise the body. it's great to see. And then, Smith, he's a volume shooter. He's going to get that puck where it needs to be. Coyle, like you said, really heavy puck possession. Try getting the puck from him. Try. I mean, it's tough. That guy will just hold on to the puck and do circles around the offensive zone until someone is out of position. He'll make that pass that needs to be made. The puck will be on net. Frederick will be there to scrape in a rebound, or Smith will be there to rifle one home. It's a beautiful, beautiful makeup they have there. This might be our best third line since Kelly, Peverley, and Ryder.
Yeah. That's true.
2011.
All right. Yeah. All right, we have hit the hour mark, so we're going to take our hour break and hear from Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia's own Bruce Sullivan. And he's got some fantastic stuff to spice up your fan cave. And this month, it is April, folks, so this month we're giving away a Jerry Cheevers hand-signed, fully authenticated jersey to a winner that is selected. And it's just for $1. So if you go to details at patreon.com/Black and Gold Hockey Podcast, you can get involved in weekly Boston Bruins related giveaways and these awesome jerseys from Bruce Sullivan from Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia. So we'll talk on the other side as soon as we hear from Bruce, and we'll be right back.
Hey, this is Bruce from Boston Sports and Music with our Black and Gold Memorabilia Moment of the Week. This week we are celebrating number 30, two-time Stanley Cup champ and Hall of Famer Jerry Cheevers. Take home your choice of JSA authenticated black style or white style autographed Cheevers jerseys with 2 inscriptions, Hall of Fame 85 and Stanley Cup champ 70-72. Your choice, $69. Or take home this great Cheevers 1970 Stanley Cup commemorative puck, autographed and JSA authenticated, yours for just $34. Take home this autographed JSA authenticated iconic mask photo special edition with Bruins patch, custom framing and matting, and of course autographed photo, yours for just $99. Or grab just the 8x10 photo itself, JSA authenticated, and yours for just $34. Or the best of all, we've got the CCM authentic jerseys, autographed and inscribed, 1970 Cup champ or 70 Cup 72, your choice, on sale right now, $249. We've got some amazing upcoming signings to announce. On April 24th, we've got Miracle on Ice member Dave Christian, who is also a former Bruin. He's going to be signing blue style and white style Team USA jerseys right here at Boston Sports and Music. We've also got, the same day, Eddie Johnston and Jerry Cheevers, 2 1970 and 72 Stanley Cup champs in one day. For more information on our dozens of hand-signed Bruins collectibles, visit us at our Facebook page, Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia, or email me directly at bostonsportsandmusic@gmail.com. And be sure to tune in each week, right here, to the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Let's go!
What's up, East fans? We are back. I just heard from the amazing Bruce Sullivan from Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia. He's got all the fantastic stuff to spice up that fan cave and get that stuff black and gold everywhere. Please go back and check out his email to contact him. Go to the Facebook page and like and subscribe over there, and you'll get some free giveaways because he does really cool things. Like, just for liking and sharing a picture, he'll send you one of these if you win. This is a Don Marcotte hand-signed picture, 70-72 Stanley Cup. This is the kind of stuff that he does. So we are back talking Bees hockey. And before we took our break, Dom mentioned something about something that could crap our pants. And I'm really, really excited to hear about this. Not about crapping pants and so on, but the news that Dom has potentially for us. So, Dom, why don't you take it away, my friend?
Well, it's not really news, but an interesting topic. And, I mean, we've already touched on the goaltending and a lot of the defense and how Trent Pryor could be key to the third line. So I'm going to suggest that we'll probably have Bruins fans shitting their pants or pulling their hair out or something. But
I put on Depends just for this, so let's go.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest that the key to the first line is going to be Jake DeBrusk. Because we already know what we're getting in Bergeron. We already know what we're getting in Marchand. But it could be hit and miss with Jake DeBrusk. And if what we saw against New Jersey is the best that he can bring, and he can bring that through the playoffs, man, that's going to be a terrific line.
Mm-hmm. DeBrusk is playing like a top six forward at the moment. And that's what you needed. And there was a lot of question marks on, he was playing well because he wanted to be traded. And now he's not traded. So now, he's just going to go back to being the old DeBrusk. That never stood true in my mind because he still needs to play well.
No,
he still has a long career ahead of him. If you want to be known for, your abilities, you have to be able to show them on the ice. And if you want to get those opportunities to be a top six forward, you have to play like it. So Jake DeBrusk needs to do that, regardless if he's got his contract. He's going to need another contract in 2 years. Do you want to continue to make $4 million, or do you want to make more? Or do you not want to regress and make less? It's like you need to be able to stay. And it's not only that, too. It's about showing up and playing the game that you love, the game you played your entire life to get you to the point where you are now, on a top line with arguably the greatest defensive centerman to ever play the game, one of the best left wingers in the game today. That's where you are. Embrace it. Have fun with it. And he is right now. And I think that's great to see. And like Dom said, I think that is a huge determining factor for this top six, because if your top two lines are what you have, they can go up against the best of them.
Yeah. Dom?
I will say this, and I mean, I know a lot of the personal stuff that went on behind the scenes. A lot of stuff out there being said about Bruce Cassidy and Jake DeBrusk, which is totally false. I can tell you guys, just don't believe it. But I talked to some people, because watching on TV, you don't get to see the reaction, how he reacts to different situations, how the coaches react to him, how his teammates react to him. So I talked to these fans who have one time or another not had great things to say. And why is he still here? Why did they sign him to a new contract? And I mean, it goes on and on and on. I said, okay, you're in the arena. Forget the game. Don't watch the game. For the next 2.5 hours, your responsibility is to watch Jake DeBrusk. How is he in the pregame skate or warm-up? How is he on the bench? How is he reacting to his teammates when they do something good? How are his teammates reacting to him? How are the coaching staff reacting to him? How is he reacting to the coaching staff? We caught a glimpse of it on TV. Unfortunately, they cut away real quick after his goal in Jersey, where Bruce Cassidy went up to him, was giving him the tap on the shoulder, and unfortunately the TV camera walked away. And I had these people message me back, and it's like, you're right, man. Like, he loves his teammates, he loves his coaches, and they love him. So I don't buy that, all that, why is he still here? He's not worth anything, and nobody wanted to pay the price for him. It's like, you have to know the whole story. and what's going on behind the scenes. So, like I said, I know what we're getting in Bergeron and Marchand, but he's the key to that first line. Not that he's the driver, because Marchand's the driver. Not because he's the rat on that line or he's the physical person on that line. It's how he embraces it now and how he moves forward into the playoffs that could be the difference between winning and losing.
Yep. And for me, when you talk about Jake DeBrusk, it was hard for me to see him being placed on his off wing, but it's working. It's definitely working right now. He seems to be getting a whole new level. And I know the frustrations when the contract came out. A lot of people went absolutely nuts. But that opens up a lot of avenues for several different aspects of Jake DeBrusk. Number one, it's the player. It's what you're getting right now on that line and the point production. He's got goals in the last 3 games. He's seemed very comfortable, and he's happy about playing hockey again. The second thing is if he's doing really well and he still wants to move, his value is just rising every game he plays well. And if we get this type of Jake DeBrusk in the playoffs, I know I've said it, other teams are going to see the playoff DeBrusk. And they're going to want to get more involved in saying, hey, I might be a little more interested in this guy now. His value is higher. Now, we've talked about this several times on this podcast about Jake DeBrusk and his possibility of moving. Maybe Don Sweeney has a better idea about him and his landscape moving forward and not pulling the trigger on just because a player wanted to get moved and he didn't see the value in a trade at that moment. Maybe signing him for 2 more years. It's more enticing for another team to come in and say, I want to take a chance on this guy if he still wants to move.
Right.
Whether he stays the full 2 years or not, there's a lot of good things that are happening right here. You just can't put the goggles on and say he's playing well, he's playing bad. There's other aspects of things that have to be explored before just poo-pooing a whole idea.
Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
I was just going to say, and Don Sweeney, like you said, if he stays the 2 years of the contract, Don Sweeney still is not obligated to trade Jake DeBrusk. He doesn't have to trade the player. It's clear that he's still happy enough in a situation to where if he had to play even – because if Jake DeBrusk goes out there and plays the way he has been on that top line, because like Dom said too, he's the key to that line. And the reason why is because if he's a passenger on that line, it's going to bring down Bergeron and Marchand in their ability to be able to cycle the puck and create opportunities in the offensive zone. So him buying in and playing the way he has, if he does that throughout the playoffs, and let's say they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals and they lose to the Hurricanes, let's say that's what happens. I think your best bet moving forward, if he's still playing the way he's playing now and he's doing fantastic, is to use him for another year in that window that they believe they have. I don't see you going out there and getting someone to come in to do much better. I don't see it, for what the price would be, and the cap's only going up $1 million. And you have Bergeron you need to sign. You definitely want to sign Zaboral. You got to see what you have in Lazar. I think he would be best utilized to keep him and play him, because it's just one of those situations where you need to do what's best for your team. And if not trading Jake DeBrusk is what's best for your team, you got to look at it.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is true. I saw it this morning and I didn't crunch the numbers, but since he's played on the first line, he's on a 40-goal pace over an 82 game schedule.
I think that's right.
So I have said it. I have been on record as saying it, that I would not be the least bit surprised if Jake DeBrusk rescinds his trade request in the offseason. Would not surprise me one bit. The effect that not just playing with them, but the effect personally, on his personal life, that Brad Marchand and Patrice Bergeron have had on him is, you can't measure it. It's been that great. So I think a lot of DeBrusk issues, and I mean, he spoke about it, COVID, being locked down, being by himself, he was homesick. He had some mental stress there. He's got a great girlfriend now that they've been together a while. The world is opening up. You just never know what's going through his mind. I think if he got married, and I hate to say this because, I mean, if he got married and his girlfriend was now a wife and was with the other wives and things started to settle down with him, you just never know. But I would not be the least bit surprised if he rescinds, just as much as I wouldn't be surprised if he is traded.
Right. No, I agree fully. Everything you said there. And I think another thing for DeBrusk is that he didn't know where he fit on this team. You had Taylor Hall. Taylor Hall was brought in, so that took his top 6 spot there. But, I mean, he also has to know that, regardless of what he was struggling with during that COVID season, it just was not there for him to be a top 6 forward. It wasn't there. So now, with him having that fit on the top line with Marchand and Bergeron, I mean, and playing the way he's playing at a 40-goal season pace, I mean, me speaking personally, not even as a Boston Bruins fan who would do anything to have the skill and to be able to put on a Spoke B as my profession, just for any hockey team to be in a position like that, how could you not want that to continue going?
Yeah.
It's so I can totally see what you're saying, Dom.
Yeah, ride the hot hand, absolutely. All right, what's next on the agenda, Kevo?
I mean, we don't really have much here on the agenda, but I mean, let's just continue with this lineup. I mean, okay. you have that Taylor Hall, Eric Haula, and David Pastrnak line, and a lot of people going into the trade deadline were saying that you cannot win with Eric Haula as your second line center. And I looked at every single person who would say that, and I would just smirk, be like, says who? You? Because the guy doesn't have a 90 overall rating on frickin' NHL 22. He fits like a glove on that damn line. That's what I always try to say this. You have 4 first-line players, not even just top 6, 4 first-line players in your top 6, which gives you the affordability to be able to place 2 of them on each line. And now from there, you plug and play, and you look for the best fits. Eric Haula is that fit. You're not getting another guy to come in there and do what he's doing for cheaper. I'll tell you that.
Exactly. And how this Boston Bruins team is doing it internally with him is the most impressive thing for me. They didn't have to go out and get that big freaking number 2 center and pay a heavy price and spend up to the cap. I think we have $6 million in space, Dom. Is that correct?
Oh, no. We're down. I actually have it right in front of me. If nothing remains unchanged right now, they'll end the season with $795,000 in cap space.
Okay.
Yeah, that was just deadline cap space, right? The $6 million.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just getting the numbers wrong, but I mean, I like what we have. I like the way he battles, and there's a lot of good things to smile about when you see internal happenings like this, and we'll see where we go from here. I mean, whether that is addressed during the off season, if that's still a need. I mean, for me, I was on Cap Friendly recently, and the center depth in free agency is a little thin. I think the highest one right now is Evgeny Malkin. Yeah. So I'm not sure if Pittsburgh's going to want to resign him, and I think they're going to get in a little bit of a cap crunch themselves too. So that might be a player that walks, but there's really not much available in my opinion. I mean, there could be some suitable players that can come in and do a good job and so on, but are they the ones that are going to blow you away and get you over that threshold of cup expectations if things don't work out this season?
I look at Holla like this, and it's funny because just before we came on, I was writing a prospect report on an OHL player, and his type of play. And immediately as I was writing it, I was thinking of Erik Haula and his situation. Because you cannot have a line that is made up of 3 players that are drivers. Okay? If you bring in what people like to call a legit number 2 center, then that player is a driver. He's the one that drives the line. But you also have David Pastrnak, who drives the line. You also have Taylor Hall that drives the line. It's good, and it's okay to have 2. Typically, you want to have 1, but it's okay to have 2. But 3 is unheard of, and in most cases where I've seen it at any level of hockey, where you try to put 3 drivers on a line, it doesn't work. Because they all need the puck. They all have to have the puck.
Right. And I think the reason why these 2 work so well is because Hall, at his core, likes the offense to flow through him. He likes to create plays at his core. Pastrnak, at his core, loves to put the puck in the net.
Yep.
This is why this combo works so damn well. And Erik Haula, the reason why he fits so well is because he allows it to happen. He allows it to happen, and he's there. Like, let's go to his goal the other night against New Jersey on Thursday night.
Okay.
That is an Erik Haula goal at its core.
Yeah.
He's
agreed.
In the dirty area looking for an opportunity. That is how he's made his career, and that's what makes him work so well with those 2, because he can be that guy to clean up a rebound. He can be that guy to make a breakout pass to get those 2 going. He can be that guy who can play well defensively to allow Pastrnak to be able to jump up and not worry so much. And Hall is that type of player too, where his defensive game in Boston has been fantastic, and he learned a lot of that playing in New Jersey, which is funny. Under their coaching staff there, that's where he really learned about how to play a 200-foot game, and it translated so perfectly in Boston. Sometimes I watch that guy, skate up and down the ice. He's up in the offensive zone. The puck's going the other way. He's back checking and breaking up a play. I mean, it's great. The line has a perfect balance. And to say that you cannot win a Stanley Cup with Erik Haula as your second-line center in between 2 first-line guys, I'm sorry. It just shows your hockey IQ. I'm sorry. I'll say it.
To add to that, Kevin, is he has the speed to be able to keep up and think with Pastrnak and Hall. And his skating ability allows him to create odd man situations where, let's say he's the late guy coming in on a 3-on-2, where he can head towards the puck carrier and now force that defender to rethink what he's going to do, because now he has to pay attention to Haula, and creates those opportunities for both Pastrnak and Hall.
Yep, absolutely. And Hall and Pastrnak, they create so much attention on themselves that it also allows Haula to get into those dirty areas untouched at times.
Yeah.
And it's just it's beautiful to see. I wish more people would look at it the way we're looking at it here on this podcast. It's all
a t-shirt
about the damn fit.
Yeah. And
it's not about the name on the back of the jersey and how many jerseys he's sold on NHL.com.
I want to make a T-shirt. Seriously, if this line sticks together, I want to have the pizza chef guy going like that.
Yeah.
But on the top, holla pasta.
I love it.
Like a,
I love it.
It'd be kind of
down with it. I'm down with it. And if the Bruins don't win a cup, it's not because Eric Haula was the second line center. Yeah. But if they don't win a cup this year, you will see all the people coming out. Told you couldn't win with Eric Haula as your second line center. I told you they needed JT Miller. That's what you'll hear.
All right. Well, we got about another 10 minutes if that's all right. Why don't we do some hashtag AskBNGs? We got 2 of them that were submitted. This one right here. This is from Trigger. What's going on with Carlo lately? It looks like he needs to watch a game or 2 from above and have a hard reset. Hashtag AskBNG. Thoughts on Carlo's game and what we can see moving forward? Because like we said earlier, he did have a better bounce back against New Jersey than he did in the game against the Maple Leafs on Tuesday night.
Well, for one, I don't think sitting him up top is going to be beneficial for him or the team. I think you're just going to allow this player to work through whatever it is. I mean, even if that's just, the teammates lending him an ear so he can talk to them about whatever issue may be going on. Because I don't think it's medically. I don't think he has an issue as far as his physical, self. I don't see that. I think it might just be a head thing right now. And it goes back to those concussions. For me, he has these weird, timid times throughout the season, these timid stretches where it's almost like he's looking over his shoulder, wondering if he's going to get concussed. That's just the feeling I get from it.
Mr. Dom, what do you think?
He's a loss for words.
Yeah, we can't hear you, bud.
Dom, your mic's not on.
No, I'm lost for words. But if that's true, Kevin, that's what they have a team psychologist for.
Right.
Is to help him get through the issues he has about whether he's worried about getting concussed again or NHL hockey is not a game that you can play in fear. And the minute you start playing it in fear is the minute you should hang up your skates. That's my belief. And really, if that's bothering him, then maybe he should sit out until he gets that worked out, because there are times that he's hurting the team. But like you said, that's not the best thing for the team, because if you sit him out, what are you doing? You're going to put Connor Clifton in there? You're going to put Josh Brown in there? They really don't have another choice.
Yeah. They'd probably have to move Lindholm to the right side.
Yeah. So they don't have many options. So whatever it is, they have to work it out. They have to work it out in the next couple of weeks, because they can't have Brandon Carlo from Toronto. I don't want to use the Toronto game because everybody stunk that game. Right. But they can't have Brandon Carlo, the bad Brandon Carlo, show up come May the 1st. They need the good Brandon Carlo. So they got to work it out.
Yeah. And when it comes down to like sitting a player, the echo was terrible. When it comes down to sitting a player, you really don't want to see it on the defense, because we have such a short line of defensemen on the roster. You're more apt to see something like that happen from the forwards. Much like Haula. Haula didn't play exactly great to start his first campaign as a Boston Bruin. But once he sat one game and saw from the ninth level and saw how the game played and, took it to heart. He came back and played very well after sitting like that. But you have more forwards that you can do that with than you do with defensemen. That's just my opinion, of course.
No, I agree 100%. I really do. It's one of those situations where, and it's especially on the right side, that's a spot where they definitely are thinnest when it comes to a player who can jump in. On the left side, you can have a Riley, a Forbort, a Grzelcyk, a Lindholm. You can have that. And now on that right side, like you said, I mean, after Carlo, there's a huge drop off. You got Clifton and you got Josh Brown. So what do you do?
Let me ask you this. How different would this defense be right now if Kevin Miller didn't retire?
Yeah.
Yeah. Having Kevin Miller in there behind Carlo would be a welcomed addition.
Yeah. Physicality factor would be definitely up there.
And he's not a liability.
Right? No. And we already talked about Brady Lyle, but Brady Lyle was supposed to be the next Kevin Miller.
With a little bit more of offensive touch there, like we got to see on. Remember that pass in the preseason that he had, the aerial, flop over pass. Yeah. God, that was when Bruins fans saw that, me included. They crapped their pants, as Dom likes to say. There, they pooped. They had Depends on.
All right, moving on to the next one and the final Ask B&G. This is from Angelo, our friend Ange. He's a fantastic supporter, always doing amazing stuff for us at B&G. Does Bruce Cassidy have to be better managing his goalies down the stretch, specifically in game? Personally, I find Bruce Cassidy and goalie Bob wait too long to make the call when games are getting out of hand. An earlier switch could have made a difference against the game against Toronto.
We touched upon this earlier, too. Well, Dom did.
Yeah. But out of respect, I did want to bring this up for Ange because he did take the time to ask the question.
I agree.
We'll see what happens with the way that Bruce wants to manage his goaltending. But I think that we just had a stinker locked and loaded, and it was about to blow, and unfortunately that was the game that did it. But I don't think that the plan should change because of one game and one mishap. So moving forward, it's just, you want to get, in my opinion, you kind of want to get equal games. I know that Swayman's young enough and so on, and he's got the trust from the staff, but also you want to keep Ullmark fresh as well, because what happens if Swayman unfortunately goes down? You don't want a guy that's only played 2 games in the last freaking 30 days. But that's just my opinion, though.
Or what happens if he craps his pants in the playoffs? You need Ullmark to come in. You need him to be fresh. But, in that Toronto game, like Dom was saying earlier, too, I definitely think Swayman should have been pulled a lot earlier than he was. Totally agree, because I don't think Ullmark – I think he got pulled after the second, right? And Ullmark came in and he didn't let up a goal. Yeah, I think Swayman let in, 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I would have pulled him at 4. That's where I would have pulled him. Just because of the amount of time that it happened into. I think it was 3 goals in the first period. He didn't have that great of a game. I think if he makes 2 saves there, it's a 1-1 game going into the second period. It's a whole different game. It would have given the defense a little bit of time to kind of get their bearings back. Get up to speed there. But, I can't put it all on Swayman, of course. I can't do that. I'm never that type of person to put a loss on one person, especially a goaltender. He had an off game, but the defense in front of him had a definite off game as well. They need to definitely look at pulling a goaltender at the right time, for sure.
All right.
Yeah, like I said, I would have pulled him after the first. To me, it was just I knew he didn't have it after the first goal and that he wasn't going to have it that night. But sometimes you pull a goalie to send a message to the team. And making the switch in between periods. Look how the Bruins came out in the third. So, if you did it at the end of the first, who knows what might have happened, right? We can only guess. But the message was sent, the team reacted, but it was too little, too late. But you also have to protect your goaltender. So I can see why they waited, give him a chance to work himself through it, but he shouldn't have gone to the end of the second period.
Mm-hmm. True. All right. We're going to be wrapping up this program because we're coming up to the 2-hour mark. So I do want to start the tail off on this, but I want to dedicate this to this episode 273 to my buddy who is no longer with us. And here's a picture of my best friend, and I sorely miss him. It's been about a week since he passed, but my boy Buster, unfortunately last Friday, was laid to rest, and this one's for him. This 273 will always be in the memory of my best friend. So it was a tough day for my family, especially my dad. That was just his OG. So I want to thank everybody for reaching out, especially Dom and Kevin and so many people on Twitter that reached out with kind condolences. Really made it very easy for me and my family. So shout out to my boy B. We're getting another dog, by the way.
Of course.
My dad was just like, when he put him down on Friday, it was like 3 hours later. He's just like, I got in contact with somebody in New York and we're going to go. And I was just like, let's settle down. Why don't you go on vacation? He's going to Florida in the middle of this month. So after vacation, let's get the plans on getting another dog and filling that void for my old man. So that being said, let's talk about our Patreon, which has been doing really well lately. And if you want to get involved in the Patreon and be eligible to win this jersey this is Jerry Cheever's hand-signed 70-72 Stanley Cup insignia. Really nice stuff from Bruce Sullivan from Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia. And we also have pucks from the great Vern Flannan back in the day, Hall of Fame 1990, and Eddie Johnston. We still got these. And obviously we got a couple of the Rick Middleton's hand-signed. So all of these are the weekly giveaways. The jerseys are given away every month. And this week's Patreon winner is Casey Bowman out in Utah. So thank you very, very much for the contributions financially. And please follow the details below and get yourself involved. I want to shout out Jared Martin from the Dump and Change Hockey Podcast. He recently contributed a $5 Patreon. So we truly appreciate you, sir. And so we like to pay the bills in the Black and Gold Sports Media Company, but we also like to take half of that money that you contribute and roll it into these awesome giveaways that people really enjoy. And I also want to give a shout out to everybody here on the panel and also all the listeners, supporters, and people that just love us. But this month of March, we absolutely blew records away when it comes to downloads per month. We approached the 10,000 download mark, and that has never been done here at BNG. So shout out to everybody here on this panel to make that happen, but also the support of the listeners and our friends that just continue to move our stuff forward. It really means a lot to us. So, hopefully next month we can cross that 10K threshold and blow this thing to the moon, my friends.
Yeah.
So we do have there's a couple of games that are coming up this week. We do have the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight at TD Garden, which is going to finish this short homestand. And then we go on the road in Columbus on Monday, April 4th, and then the next night, Tuesday, April 5th, in Detroit. So I believe we could win all three of these games if we put it all together. Columbus is going to be one of those teams that are going to bring the grit factor. They're probably out of the playoff picture right now, I kind of think.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. But so they're going to want to play spoilers, and then they're the type of team that can really grind and lean on you and try to knock you off your game. So you need to be ready for that. And obviously Detroit is not very good this year either. So, but it's also another aspect that they're going to want to play the spoilers. So we got a couple of good games that they need to take advantage of because the rest of the month is going to be tough. It's a real tough schedule. It's basically every other day with a couple of back-to-backs in it. So need to be prepared, and let's go. Let's get it. So with that being said, I'm your host, Mark Allred. That's Kevin O'Keefe, and that's Mr. Dom Tiano. We are the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast, and we thank you so much for all the support, the shares, the retweets, and everything that you guys do for us. We can't get enough of you folks. So you know what we're going to do now, right? Peace out, bitches.
Peace out.
Wait.
Uh-oh.
Mark, I have to do this. I know how you used to have Buster next to you for every game while watching on TV. So for Buster, my best Don Cherry imitation. Oh, wait.
Thumbs up. Absolutely. Thanks, Dom. I appreciate that, buddy.
Peace out.
Peace out.
See you guys later. We'll talk next week.
Peace out.
Thanks again for tuning in and supporting this week's episode of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Please give the show a 5-star rating and write a review on listening platforms such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts. If you'd like to contact the show for advertising opportunities or to send us a question or topic idea we should be discussing, please send us an email to blackandgoldproductionsllc@gmail.com. Don't forget to share our program on your social media platforms with other hockey fans and follow our Twitter accounts at Black and Gold Pod, at BNG Productions, at Black and Gold 277, and at Kevin_O'Keefe89. Also, please don't forget to check out our official blackandgoldhockey.com website where we cover the Bruins organization from the NHL level down to the prospects worldwide. Peace out.